People will say I committed class suicide. In terms of NSC position with regards to private ownership, when I supported, against the wish of my colleagues, the idea of privatizing electricity. My main argument then was that the beauty of capitalism and of private ownership is that in seeking to make profit, they will render a service.
In my state, I had about 92 to 93% coverage. I used to buy transformers almost on a weekly, monthly basis. And then we strung the lines, and then we gave light to community. But guess what? When those things were given to the discos through the privatization, the discos never paid 1 naira for any of those things. Instead, those are the things they are managing and making money. They are not making a single investment. And I think it's applicable to almost all the discos. The intention was to give it to them so they can revamp the existing infrastructure and then improve upon it. But instead, they went there to manage it. Just like what is happening in the oil sector. You will see oil well producing up to 80,000 producing as much as maybe 80,000 barrels of crude oil a day. And then it is given to an individual who continues to manage it without paying cash cow, without investing. And then eventually, after 3 or 4 years, it comes down to 15,000 barrels of crude oil. Some come down to as low as 5. But the man is still flying his private jet because he made no investment. He had recovered his money within a year. He made no investment and he's not ready. So what should government do under such circumstances? Shouldn't we revoke such licenses, take over, and then improve the production? That is what is happening in the power sector today. So I was thinking that part of your interaction with them will involve asking them, what do we do to improve on the power distribution in the country? The discos have failed, as far as I'm concerned. The people just took the discos, sat down, managed what the governors and the federal state governments put in. They are making their money. No matter where it collapses, they are not interested. So it is going down. Distribution is going down. They took distribution at 90% in any particular state. So long as they are making money, instead they will increase the tariff in order to make up for the loss of the infrastructure. So it's very wide. I don't know whether the recommendations are far-reaching enough, but we will look at line by line. Yes, discussion.
You recall, Mr. Senate President, by your leave, this report, I'm not a member of the Power Committee. This report was not a sequel of timelines, of outlines that the Senate gave them. It was the activity within. So if we want to go further, the Senate now can give them further instruction to add to this report and bring it within a specified period of time. And I'm sure the chairman has made it very clear that this was just their in-house activity. So if the Senate decides to now say, okay, go further, give us A, B, C, D, we can just do that, sir.
I also thought the report would include something like inviting the operators of TCN, the Minister of Power, and others to appear before the Senate to tell us what they are doing to stop further collapse of the national grid, and also to tell us why the discos are still in the hands of individuals who cannot improve on the infrastructure years after they were privatized, and also to tell us how can we move the power sector forward when the transmission is still 100% owned by the federal government, and we are saying that we are privatized the sector. How do you privatize the sector? When the GENCO, you give the generating company a license, and it produces 100 megawatts of electricity, and they cannot transmit because TCN is yet to provide the transmission line. So what do you do? So I don't know. You understand what I mean? So it's like we are not making progress in the power sector, and yet billions of dollars have been sunk into the power sector. So something is wrong somewhere that this August Assembly should find out. Something is wrong somewhere. So that's my personal opinion. So I don't know whether you have a solution.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. My name is Osita Izunaso. I represent Imo West. Mr. President, with your deep knowledge of this sector, I don't think there's anything to add again because you have read everything. Maybe I thought you have read the report before now, but from the way you're explaining out of personal experience. Maybe as a governor of Akwa Ibom, you have had first-hand experience in all these matters. But I would like us to depart here today by this Senate agreeing to declare an emergency in the power sector and allow the committee, this same committee, to go back, give them more time to go back to deal with some of the issues that you have raised, because you have raised very fundamental issues. Because a situation where the committee recommendation is saying we ask Mr. President to invite stakeholders. No, we need more legislative action on the matter. We don't need to ask Mr. President to do it. We have all it takes to do it. So I am saying, coming with the emotion, Mr. President, that we do receive the report of the Committee on Power, but ask them to go back and take another 4 weeks to deal with the real issues. Because they are saying that the agencies will tell us how much they have received and how much they have expended. Why they should be telling us, the committee should be telling us. It should be in the report. How much have we expended in the power sector in the past 20 years? Who are involved? I would have been towing the line of ad hoc committee. But because Senator Abaribe is not very knowledgeable in this sector, we will ask that committee to go back, give them another 4 weeks, for this nation should declare state of emergency in the power sector. This committee did not even contain anything about band A, band B, that people are being charged now. People are paying through the nose to even light one bulb in their house. So these are not some of the things that we should be tolerated. So, Mr. President, this is my motion.
And villages are contributing money to buy transformers, and the discos are there, and then the idea of estimated billing, where they don't even give you meters, and then even when they don't give you light, they come and drop money, they come and drop a bill for you to pay. So the Senator Abaribe, we know you are very, very knowledgeable in the power sector, and you've been on it for a long time. Last one I said you are very familiar. I hope I didn't say derogatory. You don't need derogatory, man. I just said you are familiar with the power sector. I mean, you've headed the committee. This is not the first time, so you know what is wrong. But we are concerned that the citizens are paying for power they are not getting. Many of them are being billed through estimation because there is no meter. And even the discos cannot even provide meter. They are not adding value. They are not providing transmission transformers. So what was the essence of this privatization? So we make the laws. We can tinker with the laws. We can abrogate the laws. We can repeal the laws. We can request that the federal government to take back those things from them, and so that we can revamp the power sector. So I think it should go higher than this. We should invite even the Minister of Power to come here and tell us what he's doing in terms of bringing people to book. We have not seen people being prosecuted for some of these things. Like I said, people just took Adams Oshiomhole, Senator Adams Oshiomhole. You are a governor now, and you know that you gave light to a lot of communities. You bought transformers. Since you left office, no new transformer. And the people that took over are just making money from those your transformers and those lines you put. And they are not adding value at all. Instead, if a community's light collapses, they go away. The community will stay for a year or 2 years without light. Are we going to accept that? We're a parliament. We made the law for them to go to that stage. If they are not doing the correct thing, we can reverse that law. This parliament has the power. We can reverse the law.
Mr. President, may God bless you. And I pray that under your leadership, this Senate will find the courage to stop the extortion, abuse of power, lack of consumer protection, and barefaced stealing by various discos. Mr. President, everything you said, including reminding us that nothing is foreclosed, that this parliament under your leadership has the power to revoke any wrongdoing that had been done. The justice of anything that is wrong is that it should be corrected. Personally, sir, people will say I committed class suicide in terms of NSC position with regards to private ownership, when I supported, against the wish of my colleagues, the idea of privatizing electricity. My main argument then was that the beauty of capitalism and of private ownership is that in seeking to make profit, they will render a service. But the danger of public ownership is that whether they render a service or not, they draw on the taxpayer treasury in the name of correcting what is there. I could never have imagined, as it is today, that a private person will collect money for services he did not render. And the Nigerian people are helpless. Even we here as privileged class have had to buy the transformer that I use here in the heart of Abuja. And to install it, I have to persuade, negotiate, and even effect payment to Abuja distribution, whatever, to connect the transformer I have procured personally with my resources. And hereafter, this transformer becomes the property of the disco. And every month, I am asked to pay bill on brand A or whatever.
Under your transformer.
Like you said, sir, every state governors, or most, spend public funds, buy transformers for communities. And then you still have to contribute money. Many of us, very soon, when we go back to the electorate, they are going to tell us that for 1 year, for 2 years, they've had no light. What is the problem? No transformer. And then they ask you a senator to go out and buy the transformer. You look for the money, you buy the transformer. And then they say, NEPA says you have to pay for them to connect the transformer to their grid. If cables are 40, you buy the cost, you buy the cable for them to install it. Even right now, I have requests from several communities asking me to buy their transformer and to get them connected. And yet, sir, the key element in distribution is transformer and cables, among others. So if these ones are now being procured by state government using public funds and individuals using their personal resources, what is the cost that these discos are incurring? Now, worse, the money they claim to have paid, because the logic of privatization was to inject private capital into these services. In truth, they went to borrow from Nigeria depositor funds in various banks, thereby killing some of those banks who have now become the liability of AMCON, which itself is also a contradiction about the logic of free market. And what they have borrowed, Mr. President, since the privatization took place, what they have borrowed through CBN and other sources is 10 times more than the amount they claim to have paid to become owners of those discos. Lastly, sir, as things stand, discos own no more than 60%, quote, own. So it is arguable where the total money you have borrowed from public sources is more than your private capital, whether you can still claim to be privately owned. 40%, as we speak, still belong to the federal government. But sir, there are no governing councils. There is no governing board for this discourse. So federal government owns 60% of a business and it has no say in the board of those companies. So there is no corporate governance. The one of Edo is owned by a pharmacist. The wife is a banker. The pharmacist becomes the chairman. The banker becomes the MD. They mismanage Edo economy, Delta economy, Ondo economy, Ekiti economy, and we are down right now in crisis. Even I, sir, that I don't live in Benin, my bill every month, I can't even afford it. So, Mr. President, I support the motion by my very good friend who lost an earlier motion, thanks to the vigilance of Mr. Senate President and your commitment to protect the poor. But this motion can benefit from a radical review, including the option of revoking the ill-conceived, ill-executed privatization and revisit it in line with the renewed agenda of Mr. President, that no one shall pay for services to a private Nigerian who did not render that service. We are going to a petrol station to buy fuel without a pump. And the person selling the fuel tells us this is the amount of liter I have injected. You have no means to verify it. May your leadership, sir, uncommon as it is, be the one that gives us the political will to revisit and protect Nigerians, rich or poor, who have been victimized by the fake new owners of this discourse. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well guided. In fact, I have to be very honest with you. The president's reform in this country will go to naught unless we take a critical look at what is going on in the electricity sector. I have to be very honest with you. It's a very serious matter. Because whether you like it or not, the essence of that privatization was for them to do what? To bring improvement, to inject new funds, to ensure seamless operations. But what we are seeing here is totally a different thing entirely. People just took advantage. They are not refunding money to states for even the infrastructure they took. And like you pointed out, federal government still retains some quantum of shares in those discos, but there is no governing board, so federal government does not know what is going on there. Maybe there is an assistant director somewhere who is a member of the board, and then that reports to his wife. It does not report to federal government. So what happens to the people? So, Chairman of Power, you can't answer some of these questions unless we go deeper. And we must be prepared to recommend necessary legislative actions. We have a right to revoke even in fact, we can repeal the various acts that made the federal government to commit these blunders.